Hello, we are back finally. Premier League is back. Oddspedia Premier League is back. Matchday 32, FA Cup, International Break, Champions League, every single competition, Copa Libertadores, Conca Champions, all these competitions, Tom, except Premier League. How are you? Are you confident on your West Ham?
No, which we're going to find out together during the next 7 shows we do. I'm delighted it's back. I feel like I've been waiting so long, and we've had so many discussions about the same thing over and over again. We're going to find out finally if Arsenal are up to it. We're going to find out finally if City are going to do their mad end-of-season run. We'll find out finally if West Ham can stay up, having been in the bottom 3 for months and months and months, and all the other stories in between. Plus, all of a sudden, there's a battle for 5th that Everton and Brentford are in. So, going to be a good end to the season.
Well, I have so many questions for you, so let's wait, of course, until the games. And guys, ask any question also to Tom Rennie here. He is with you live. Well, let's go on with the show. And for Friday, we have a massive game for the relegation battle. West Ham, Wolverhampton. I guess every single West Ham fan are eyeing this game. It's a must win if they want to get safe out of the FA Cup with Leeds. Remember, and lost to Aston Villa. That was a long time ago. And the last 5 games in all competitions at home were draws. No defeats at home since the 6th of January, Tom. Yeah. Just to give you some hope. But on the other hand, we are seeing the best Wolverhampton of the season, drew with Brentford, beat Liverpool and Aston Villa, so they can be dangerous at the moment.
Yeah, and of course, even when they were at their absolute worst, they still found a way to beat West Ham in the game that's sort of kept West Ham in relegation trouble since December. I mean, look, West Ham are interesting in that they were dead and buried under Graham Potter, and I think that Nuno brought almost nothing to this team for the best part of 3 or 4 months. It's taken a long time, but he has now finally found something that sort of works. Axel Disasi, if fit, has been tremendous for the Hammers. He's brought the best out of Mavropanos alongside him, I think, in midfield. They found a good balance of Souček and Fernandes up front, Pablo behind Tati Castellanos, despite their deficiencies in terms of talent. They put a lot of effort in, which Big Fat Fulkrug wasn't doing. And so they've got a good balance. Somerville's back for this one. Bowen on the other side, there's a chance. There really is a chance for West Ham. The trouble is they followed the sort of Leeds model of being more difficult to beat, but they're also following the Leeds model of just not winning enough games. Should have beaten Manchester United, should have beaten Bournemouth, should have beaten several teams in this run, have failed to do so. So now it's about Alan Kirbishley once famously said for West Ham in the Great Escape season when Carlos Tevez was there, draws don't matter. It's win or bust. And that's how West Ham have got to play from now on. Draws are not going to get you over the line. They've got to win some games. By my reckoning, they need to win 3 of 7 and get 2 draws. A huge ask for a team that have only picked up 7 wins this season in the league, but that's the position they find themselves in. The home form across the entire season has been pretty poor, but as you say, in recent times, it has got better. They have suddenly become more difficult to beat. They're scoring goals, creating chances, but all the pressure here is on West Ham. And they've not reacted well to pressure all season. They've not reacted well to anything all season, frankly. And if they don't win this game, I tell you right now, there is no scenario they stay in the Premier League. From the fixtures that are left, from the home games that are left, anything but 3 points here, we should start paying out on West Ham going down today because they aren't going to win 3 more of the 6 that are left. This needs to be in that group. And in terms of Wolves, almost the relegation that is inevitable has freed them a little bit. The weeks under Rob Edwards have forged a team of sorts. I still think they're the worst team in the country, but I think in Mane, they've had someone who's brought energy to the team, which he first did, I think, against West Ham against Molineux in December. Armstrong has come in and led the line reasonably well. He's a good championship striker and will set them well for next season. The 2 Gomez in midfield still can't run, but they're playing slightly deeper in front of the back 3, and that's got a bit more out of them. There's pace in the wide areas, a few changes they can make. Look, I still think that Wolves are a poor team and deserve to get relegated, but I think there's every chance in behind with pace they could land a glove here. But look, West Ham simply have to win. If West Ham had 5 more points, I'd back them to win this game because they have better players. They are at home, and West Ham should not be in the position they are in, but of course they are. So take the West Ham win at 1.9. Not amazing odds considering how bad the home form has been. So how are they going to win it? They're going to win it in a very nervy fashion, I would suggest. 1-0, Jarrod Bowen, hold on for dear life, make Wolves look amazing. But I think they can keep them out if Disasi is fit. Group bet of 1-0, 2-0, or 3-0 comes in at 3.5. Under in this game. Just can't see many goals. I think relegation games either become 5-4 or they're 1-0. I would go for the 1-0 here. West Ham under 2.5 goals is 4.5. Somerville is back. Bowen is playing. Anytime for either of those guys too. Bowen anytime 2.63. Somerville anytime 3.5. Screams West Ham 1-0, or frankly, Wolves 1-0.
Well, West Ham to win and under 2.5 goals. 𝗗𝗜𝗦𝗖𝗟𝗔𝗜𝗍 is also telling us, so same bet as you suggested. This is for Friday, West Ham, Wolverhampton. For Saturday, we start with Arsenal, Bournemouth. Last defeat for Bournemouth was against Arsenal, and really long time ago. It was the 3rd of January, but it's another team that is drawing a lot, 5 consecutive draws for Bournemouth, and it's interesting to see Arsenal coming back to the Premier League after losing both cups and after the performance in the Champions League. Of course, when you win away in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, you should be happy, but again, I think the team was dull, was boring. David Raya was the best, so many things to be addressed by Arteta and see if they are going to get over the line, Tom.
I mean, look, we've discussed the Arsenal team ad nauseum this season. They're not playing for you or for me or for anyone that pays money to watch football. They are just playing for themselves to get over the line, and they will not take any criticism, understandably, of how ugly and awful and caution-first the football is. And why would they if they end up winning the Premier League and make the Champions League semi-final, which they're on course to do? The only risk in that is that with every single game being so close, 2-1s, 1-0s, a couple of 2-0s recently, they are open to the sucker punch, and they've been sucker punched a few times this season. Sunderland, Brentford, 1 or 2 other games, and with it being so tight at the top, if City win their game in hand, if City beat Arsenal, if 3 points in it going into the final 5, who are we backing then? I'm not sure it would be Arsenal. So I do think they need to win pretty much every game to be champions this season. Of course, if they beat City, it becomes a different world then because you can probably drop a couple of points, but I would suggest they've got to win this game, the next game, and then we'll see where we are. But if they lose to City, it's every single game, bar City, they have to win to be champions. So it's still a high wire act for Arsenal. And I think dropping points here would be damaging going into City next week and Sporting in the week. We haven't got to spend too much time on how they're going to play. You all know how they're going to play right now. I don't see a great deal of rotation from the Sporting game because of the necessity of winning this match. So a strong lineup. The really good news is that Kai Havertz is back and fit. And for all the detractors that there are for Kai Havertz, and it's understandable to a degree, he's perfect for this team in that he can play up front, he can play 10, scores goals when the chances come, is a top-class player, never really had a position anywhere in English football, but has incredible ability and is a dead eye in front of goal at vital moments. A Champions League final winner scorer not too long ago and scored the winner against Sporting a couple of days ago. So that's a boost there. In terms of Bournemouth, what an utterly pointless season it's been for them. Like, fair enough, they didn't get drawn into a relegation battle, which was potentially likely in January. They could have done a Tottenham in January, but they turned it around and have drawn games to get themselves away from safety. But I don't think I've ever seen a team draw 15 matches in a season before. I've not looked into it, but like that's insane to have 15 draws with 7 games remaining. Look, credit to them defensively, very well organised. Credit to the work rate. Credit to the spirit of never say die, coming back in games when maybe they should have lost it twice against Man United this season, for example. But you play for draws, you end up 13th. It kind of seems like a bit of a waste of time. There's no risk reward when it comes to Bournemouth. So, look, Arsenal win, obviously take that at 1.5. with the record that Bournemouth have got, bet on every game to be a draw because it will come in more often than not. Has come in 15 times this season. Draw at 5. Really, really tasty here. And I wouldn't be surprised if it came in. If Arsenal score first, they will go on to win this match, I think. If Bournemouth score first, it will end a draw, damaging to Arsenal, and we all make some money. If Arsenal win it, it keeps on coming in. It came in midweek. I'm doing it again. Arsenal win by exactly 1 goal is 3.5, and Arsenal under 2.5 is 4. Really, really good odds here all over for a tight match.
Exactly. If you want a tight game, also Bournemouth Asian handicap plus 1.5 could be an option for you. It's 1.7, so they don't lose by 2 goals or more. Although we have Cagonjo telling us Arsenal to win 2-0. For instance, 𝗗𝗜𝗦𝗖𝗟𝗔𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗥 Arsenal ugly win 1-0. We know, or we are kind of sure that if it's an Arsenal win, it's going to be an ugly one. Thinking also on the game they have on Wednesday in the Champions League, Arsenal Sporting Lisbon. Next one is Brentford Everton. You said it at the beginning of the video. These teams have a real chance to fight for the Champions League spots. They are only 3 points away from Liverpool. Looked like the season was over, but no, they have a good chance. If it's not the Champions League, could be the Europa League, otherwise the Conference. So this is an important game. Brentford 3 consecutive draws. Everton 3 wins in the last 4 games. The bookies place Brentford, playing at home, obviously, as favorites. But I guess also this game could be easily a draw, Tom.
Great game on a weekend of great games. Either of these 2 teams could be in the Champions League next season. With Liverpool stumbling the way they are, 5th is up for grabs, and 5th is where it will go. And as you say, Europa and Conference up for grabs as well, depending on the FA Cup final, what have you. Let's start with Brentford. Great season in many ways, but they have fumbled the ball in recent weeks because there was an amazing run they went on, win after win after win after win. Then suddenly the wins have dried up. They stopped the losing and managed to get several draws, including against Leeds United last time out, including the drop points against Wolverhampton Wanderers, including a draw against Bournemouth. But look, we all draw against Bournemouth. And it's worth noting too in this run was that wild 3-4 victory at Burnley, which not only should have been a draw, it should have been a Burnley win. So they have struggled to get over the line. I wonder if the pressure of having something to play for got to several of these players. Of course, there's been injuries to significant people in the squad as well. But what they have is what they've had all season long. 3 ways of scoring that it's just been unstoppable all season. Number 1, the incredible 𝗗𝗑𝗦𝗖𝗟𝗔𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗥 long throw. Number 2, Henderson over the top to 𝗗𝗗𝗓𝗐𝗑𝗏. Number 3, get the ball to Thiago. He wins a penalty and converts it. They have done it so many times this season. And of course, it helps when that striker, Thiago, has scored 19 goals in the Premier League this season. Some teams only get to 25 or 30 across the campaign. So he has been a huge difference maker for them this season. But they've got to turn this run of draws into wins. Otherwise, they will not be playing in the Champions League, certainly, and might miss out on European qualification, which would be a huge blow. In terms of Everton, it's incredible they've done this. Like, genuinely incredible in that David Moyes lost Jack Grealish for the rest of the season when he got injured. They lost Dewsbury Hall for months on end. They lost Ndiaye for a long period of time in midfield. They've had to play Idrissa Gana Gueye, who can't run anymore. They've had Michael Keane, who's been a liability for a couple of years. And they've had Beto and Barry up front, who previously had not been scoring goals at all. And he's managed to forge a team that were able to win at Newcastle. They beat Burnley. They thrashed Chelsea. Classic David Moyes. How many times has David Moyes been written off at Everton and West Ham over the years? And he then puts a team together that just go on a run. They don't do anything different. They don't do anything spectacular. They play 4-2-3-1. Everyone does their job well. And if you face teams that are not doing their job well, he will deliver results. And suddenly Everton have gone from, I don't know what kind of season they're going to have, to, wow, they could actually qualify for something this season. They could make Europe. I think they will make Europe in some guys' next campaign, which is what he did when he came into West Ham, and he's doing it on his return to Everton as well. One of the great managers in Premier League history, David Moyes. So really tough game this for both of these teams. But on recent form at home for Brentford, I'd pick out the draw at 3.47. I think that'll rise before we get to the weekend. Don't see many goals in this match when Everton have won. They've 1-0 in their last 2 victories. When they lost 2-0. So I think one of these teams is likely to keep a clean sheet. Draw 0-0 or 1-1, by the way, together comes in at 4.33. If you go for a win, go by exactly 1 goal. I would just pick for Brentford as the home team by 1 goal, 3.75. And as discussed, 𝗗𝗜𝗦𝗥𝗏, anytime, 19 this season, take it every week, 2.5, anytime goal scorer.
Everton or draw. True is telling us draw or 𝗗𝗏𝗏𝗏. This is an interesting question, Tom, because I think the seasons are very similar. Mam Spaghetti is asking you, if Arsenal win the league, who are better champions, Arsenal or Liverpool last season?
Liverpool, not close.
Okay.
This Arsenal team will be one of the worst champions we've ever had in Premier League history. Just unwatchable dirge. And I think the damage they've done to English football was shown in the Champions League this week. You've got Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich and Real Madrid. Pop, 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 pop. You got Liverpool. Long throw. I think they've been incredibly damaging champions, and I hope they do win the league this year. So next year, maybe Arteta challenges himself to try and play some football next campaign with this incredible squad. Liverpool were amazing last season until February. This Arsenal team have not been amazing at all.
All right, next one is Burnley, Brighton. Burnley only 1 point in the last 4 games. It's very likely that they finish bottom of the table, by the way, only 3 points away from Wolves. So here is all about Brighton, but the odds are a bit short, in my opinion, 1.7.
Oh, is that how we're ending it? Sorry, I thought you were leading into a question. I was waiting for the next bit.
Yeah, if the odds are short.
They're rubbish.
Brighton.
They're rubbish odds. Yeah, absolutely rubbish. I mean, I think they're going to win, which is the trouble. But you made the point. Burnley are going to finish bottom. I think we said that maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, because I don't even know what the identity of this team is anymore. I think it's all become so depressing at Burnley. You know, Rob Edwards was able to put a bit of life into Wolves. In terms of Burnley, they came up on a very set style of play. They've not been able to execute that in the Premier League. The squad hasn't been good enough, and they're far too far behind. And even the way they lose games, like the Fulham game, they took the lead. Did anyone think they were going to win? No. So look, they haven't invested in a Premier League squad. It's cost them all season, and I think it's inevitable in a matter of time, and maybe 3 weeks away. So I won't waste too much time on them. You know, in terms of Brighton, they're in the Bournemouth category of a fairly pointless season. There was a sort of time where I thought that maybe they could have a charge towards European qualification. And look, 43 points, maybe they can go on a little run, but such a lack of consistency across the campaign. They have been winning games recently, but in a sort of turgid, not playing particularly well way. I thought they were pretty poor in the victory at Sunderland, where they sort of smash and grabbed it there. And it's a fascinating time for Brighton in that I think Fabian Hurtzler will go. He's been linked with Bayer Leverkusen, so I wonder if that leads to a bit of a tail off at the end of this campaign. How much further can you push 35-year-old Danny Welbeck after this season? I think he'll be a massive threat in this game, but you've got a 35-year-old in Welbeck up front. You've got a 40-year-old in James Milner in central midfield alongside Pascal Gross, who's 34. Like, there's not much longevity in this team, and it's worth noting those players that are the sellable assets, Minte and Mitoma and Gomez, not been consistent, not worth the sale this summer. So I think it's going to be real interesting moving forward for Brighton. Got to find a new manager, and also got to find a way to make money. I don't think Chelsea will be coming in for anybody in this squad, including Baleba, who's been sort of irrelevant this season. Might be shunting back into centre half this weekend with Lewis Dunk suspended. We'll see how that plays out. So look, you couldn't possibly bet on a Burnley win. I don't think anyone should do that. So if you're going to bet on this game, take the Brighton win at 1.79. Wouldn't be stunned to see a draw here. In terms of Burnley, they have picked up a couple of decent draws recently. Chelsea and Bournemouth, of course, Bournemouth notably. So draw on both teams score. Screams 1-1 at 5. Most Brighton games end up both teams to score as well, though noting that a couple haven't recently. But across the season, it's been a very consistent bet for us. Couple of individuals to pick out too. Zian Fleming anytime at 3.25. 8 Premier League goals this season for him is nothing to sniff at. I think he's a good poacher. And we mentioned Danny Welbeck. He's their top scorer at Brighton. 12 goals for him, 2.38 anytime for him. So a couple of strikers to pick out. Close game, shade for Brighton.
Okay, same thing as the comments. Brighton to win and under, or a short Brighton win 1-0, 2-0. Brighton to score in the first half. And for Saturday, we also have Liverpool playing at home against Fulham. You were right. Their game in the Champions League was absolutely was crap. They were pitiful. They had no option against PSG. Even 2-0 was a very short score. And your tip was correct, by the way. PSG Asian handicap -1. They are in a really bad run. They've been trapped for a while. Remember FA Cup against Man City. And you have to pay attention to the Premier League, of course, because they need to qualify for the Champions League. It's only one win in the last 6 games, but I guess it's good to face Fulham. They beat Burnley, but they don't have much to play for. But again, Tom, the odds are so short for this Liverpool 1.6, so untouchable.
Yeah, look, it might be worth a punt here. If you're taking a punt, take the Fulham win at 5.5. I think that's probably the best upset bet of the weekend if you're looking for something. And the reason being that Liverpool are just... It's over. It's totally over. Slot is over. A lot of these players are over. The season is over. They gave up on a rival against Paris Saint-Germain. They gave up, as Virgil van Dijk told us in the FA Cup last weekend. It's been a miserable campaign for Liverpool in lots of ways for their standards. Who knows about the injuries from Wednesday night as we record this, but it's baffling to me that he's gone for this formation at the end of his tenure, Arne Slot, with 10 games to go, 12 games to go. He's gone for this 4-2-2-2 formation where everyone's playing out of position, and it's got the best out of no one. It's not getting the best out of Wirtz or Szoboszlai. It's not getting the best out of 𝗗𝗚𝗘𝗥 or indeed Salah, who got dropped in midweek. It's getting nothing from the fullbacks. It's exposing Van Dijk and Konaté, all of it. It's not working, and it needs to go back to a 4-3-3. I don't know whether you'd play Salah. I'd probably just let him leave the club quietly now and maybe bring him on off the bench in the final game of the season to say goodbye to Anfield for what he's done there. But it's all petering out. It looks a mess. And I wouldn't even be surprised to see Arne Slot maybe leave before the end of the season. If they're knocked out by Paris Saint-Germain in the week, which I think they will be, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a handshakes all round. Let's not see this through for 6 final games and see him booed at Anfield. Let's, if Xabi Alonso is lined up, Xabi Alonso sees it through to the end of the season, or you're bringing a caretaker. This would not shock me. Such is the sense of overness at Liverpool right now. And in terms of Fulham, in that same sort of bucket as Brighton, could they go on a bit of a run to qualify for Europe? Yeah, they could do. Will they? No, I don't think so. They're a classically inconsistent team. As their recent results suggest, they find a way to lose to West Ham, but find a way to beat Tottenham. You know, that's just who Fulham are. They're never going to be a consistent team. They don't have players that... They've got a lot of players that have been at top clubs, but left top clubs. And why is that? Because they're 1 in 3. To be at a top club, you've got to be 1 in 1, 1 in 2. Harry Wilson's a great example of that. He's been one of the best players in the Premier League this season, but some weeks will go missing. Some weeks doesn't contribute. Other weeks, phenomenal player who scores great goals. And you could throw maybe Oscar Bob or Alex Iwobi or several other members of the squad in that bucket. Even the keeper, Bernd Leno, probably goes in there too. So, look, if they have a really good day, they absolutely can win this game, Fulham. And again, the odds are quite tasty for them to do that. Away from home, not amazing this campaign, but 4 wins. Look, it's on the lower end of the spectrum, but they have shown they can pick up a big win on the road if they need to. Long time since that happened. But meeting Liverpool on a bad day, if Liverpool are still depressed as they seem to have been for weeks, maybe. Of course, the most likely example here is that Liverpool have a reaction from just how awful they've been for the last couple of games, and they get a couple of early goals and see it through. So Fulham or Liverpool by exactly 1, 3.75. That makes it quite juicy. It screams 2-1 either way, I think, here. Wouldn't be stunned to see Fulham take the lead. Liverpool make a comeback. Salah comes off the bench and has a big moment at the Kop end. So 2-1 either way. 8 for the home team, 15 for the away team. But I think both teams will be changing managers and looking very different starting next season.
Over 2.5 goals through light is telling us Fulham will win and make it 5 out of 5 losses for Liverpool. And this is from a Liverpool fan. On Sunday, we have Crystal Palace Newcastle, not much on stake here. Crystal Palace also thinking in Europe. They play Fiorentina in the conference, and I guess they are not caring about the Premier League. And Newcastle got a very ugly defeat before the break in the derby against Sunderland. A bad season overall for Newcastle.
Yeah, two teams again that nothing really going on in the league. So Crystal Palace should have gone full strength on the Thursday. We're recording this before they kick off, but go full strength, risk absolutely nobody for this particular league game. But of course, they haven't got a particularly deep squad, so it's been a problem for them all season. At home, 3 wins and 7 draws for Crystal Palace this season is a pretty poor record. It's why they haven't really landed a glove in the league this season. But of course, Newcastle away from home and with 7 losses across the campaign, that's been their Achilles heel. Plus, as you mentioned, losing home games too. I think maybe another pair of clubs, or certainly one, but maybe 2 that are going to be thinking about where they are going next. So, look, with Crystal Palace, what do you do without knowing who's injured and who's not? You back the draw every time when it comes to Crystal Palace these days for reasons that I've mentioned, 7 home draws. In terms of Newcastle, since Bruno Guimaraes got injured, they've looked half the team. You add that Fabian Schär being missing and Dan Burn playing centre-half and Walter Marder looking like doesn't know where he's meant to be playing and the flop of 𝗗𝗚𝗦𝗖𝗟𝗏 and whomever else they're playing up front. What they'll do here, I think, if fit, is Anthony Gordon goes centre, as we've seen in big away games this season. That gives them a lot of high pressing along with Alanga and Harvey Barnes. That's a really strong trio of players to chase down the Crystal Palace backline. And I think it's going to be a really, really tight game for reasons discussed. Go for the draw at 3.62 because Palace draw a lot of home games. 0-0 or 1-1 at 5, I think is really nice as well. I don't see many goals in this match. Both their last games, as we record this, finished 2-1. Palace winning 1 and Newcastle losing 1. So don't be surprised to see that as well. So look for the exactly 1 goal market either way. And I like this as well. Palace to be winning at half-time or full-time at 2.38. Wouldn't be stunned here to see Crystal Palace race into an early lead. Newcastle will pip them back, as we've seen Newcastle doing games this season, and it ends a draw. Absolutely screams draw to high heaven.
Indeed. Also, 𝗗𝗚𝗦𝗏 going for a draw. Let's look for more interesting games. And the next one is a good one. Nottingham Forest, Aston Villa, both alive in the Europa League and playing on Thursday, but also this game is very important for both. In the Premier League, Nottingham Forest only 3 points away from West Ham in a good run. Finally, first win for Vitor Pereira as a manager against Tottenham. It looks a long time ago, but was the last Premier League game. No defeats in the last 3 in Premier League, and also very important for Aston Villa since they want to play Champions League next season. They have a good cushion. Now is 6 points margin after beating West Ham in the last game, finishing the bad streak. But still plenty of things on stake here, Tom.
Huge game this weekend for both of these teams. For Nottingham Forest, they've got to win the home games. If they win the home games that are left, they'll stay in the Premier League this season. Funnily enough, as I've said for a while to you, I think that Forest are the only team I would be really confident of staying in the Premier League of the 4 that are in the race for the 1 spot left, because they can win games like this. And they've proven when big games come around, like Spurs away, they have the ability to see it through. And I don't think West Ham, Spurs and Leeds have shown that they do. Injuries racking up for Forest, which is a problem. I don't know how strong they've got on Thursday currently, but there's doubts about people like Amari Hutchinson, and Ola Aina's had a season of injuries, and we know Chris Wood, who's been back with the reserves, I think recently has missed the majority of the campaign, may well get some minutes in the last few games of the season. But I was really impressed by the way they played at Tottenham. I think everybody was. I think Elliot Anderson is a top-class player. Morgan Gibbs-White is a top-class player. I think we all spoken a lot about Murillo and Milenkovic. I think Nico Williams is excellent. Like, Forest shouldn't be in this situation. Mismanagement from above has put them in the situation, and I think they'll get enough points to see it through. But this is a fascinating game in that at home this season in recent weeks, Nottingham Forest haven't been able to win the games they should, but they've won games unexpectedly. I think about the draw against Wolverhampton Wanderers, Sean Dyche's final game in charge, where they had how many shots? Like 100, and ended up not winning that game. Only 3 wins at home this season surprises me because I think they're a good force at home. Again, I think that's mismanagement from above. And that opens the door to Aston Villa, who, on the run they were on, where they were struggling before the West Ham game, the issue, I think, was injuries for them. Losing Kamara for the season's been a big blow. They'd also lost John McGinn for a long, long time. They'd lost several players to injury for a long, long time. And I think that was costing Unai Emery. In a thin squad, he wasn't able to rotate anybody. Everyone was looking knackered. And, of course, John McGinn is such a leader for this team, as he showed against West Ham in scoring that first goal a couple of weeks ago. I think that this could go either way. This is a tough one to bet on. I would suggest the odds tell you that, 2.76 for either team. I think go with your gut on this one. For me, I would just go for Aston Villa. Why? Because I think so much pressure on Forest here. They have to win this game. They don't have the advantage of Villa playing Thursday and Forest not. So lots of rotation here. Tough game for Forest on the Thursday. Villa have a better squad. Villa have a better record away from home than Forest have got at home. And I think you've got to take a punt on your gut. And I would say Aston Villa here in recent form, beating Lille, beating West Ham. I think they've got every chance of winning it. And I don't think Villa will be as pliant as Tottenham were a couple of weeks ago. That was a weird anomaly, the way that second half played out. Certainly look at both teams to score here. Both teams have got a poor defensive record this campaign. So both teams to score, pick a winner. I also quite like here Villa draw as a double chance and under 2.5 goals in this match. Screams 1-0 or 2-0. Either way, I would take Aston Villa to do that, but I wouldn't be stunned to see the same Forest way. So, yeah, that's me sitting on the fence.
Both teams to score could be a good option. True Light going for it, or 𝗗𝗜𝗦𝗖𝗟𝗔𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗥 going for it as well. Let's check Smart Bet for this game, our AI, since this is a very interesting game indeed. And we have a double chance. Let's take a look. There you go. But double chance, Forest or Aston Villa. We don't like this kind of bets.
Nope.
Over 2.5 goals is a good one. And check out the odds for this one. If you are more cautious, Arteta style, over 1.5 goals. Another option. Next one, Sunderland. Tottenham, massive one. The service debut with Tottenham. Remember, looks like long time ago, but Igor Tudor is no longer Tottenham's manager. 44 days in charge, no wins. I guess it's going to be very easy to forget his spell at Tottenham. They need a reaction. Let's see if the Serbi can give the push to stay in the Premier League, but they can be in relegation spots at the time of the kickoff. It was not easy to win at the Stadium of Light, Tom, but now it's 3 consecutive defeats at home for Sunderland, but also the last game was the win in the derby. How do you see this one? Very difficult, I guess, to predict as we
really tough. Yeah. Really tough. Really, really tough, this. I think that, let's start with Tottenham because they're a lot more interesting here. I think Igor Tudor is maybe one of the worst appointments any team has ever made in Premier League history. Came in, immediately fell out with everybody, didn't want the job, didn't know the league, played random formations and random players in random positions. It was a total mess. And he had to go following the humiliation, which was the game against Nottingham Forest. I would question De Zerbi not taking the job first time around when he was offered it, considering he was happy to take it so quickly second time around. That, I think, is quite interesting. All this guff about him staying next season, even if they're in the Championship, I find all that a little bit weird. Don't even talk about it because you've been brought in to save them. Look, De Zerbi is... This is the thing we're going to find out the weekend. Is Roberto De Zerbi a good manager? Yes, I think he is. Does he have a style of play of his own? Yes, he does. High pressing, high energy, attack first, ask questions later. We've seen that in the Premier League previously. We've seen that in Marseille. Is he going to do that right now with Tottenham? If he does, Tottenham will get relegated. If he comes in and goes against all his instincts and plays like a relegation threatened manager, this Tottenham team will get enough points to stay in the league. That's just one man's opinion. And I'm fascinated to find out what he does. I think he's going to go an equivalent of 5-4-1, sit deep, tackle, and look to hit Sunderland on the counter. And he'll do that in every game to get the wins required. I think De Zerbi is smart. And I think he knows he's onto a massive financial winner for the rest of his life. With a decent transfer budget in the summer, if he can get this team to finish 17th in the Premier League table, which is extraordinary that we're talking about that with Tottenham Hotspur. The injuries all season been a massive problem. Still so many top players out, but they can line up with Mickey van der Ven and Romero and a lot of really top talents. Richarlison, Solanke, we haven't got to list everyone. Some talk that maybe Mo Kudus could make a return to the squad for the first time in some months to add some panache to a team that's lacked it this season. Don't know. Real tough. And going to Sunderland is tough in lots of ways as well. You mentioned the recent losses, though I will note I watched the Brighton game and I'm just staggered they lost that match. They sort of got Sunderlanded themselves by Brighton. What a weird word that was. I'm using that again. But I think in terms of Sunderland, what's going to help them here is that they would not have considered Brighton a big game. And I think if you were a Sunderland fan who treated to this tremendous season, you now got to get yourself up for Brighton, having had all these fantastic games, and you couldn't do it. I think they'll treat this as a big game against a big club. Great atmosphere, desire to win. Sunderland will want to smash Tottenham this weekend in a way I don't think they did against Brighton. And I think with people like Brian Brobby, I've been incredibly impressed with. A fit 𝗗𝗜𝗦𝗥𝗏, the former Arsenal man in central midfield, having struggled for fitness for a long time. The 3 weeks off for him would have done him plenty of favours. I think it's going to be an all-action, entertaining, Sunderland doing all the pressing kind of game. And I think the recent home form goes out of the window. Sunderland to win at home at 2.7, I think is a real nice bet this weekend. Spurs at 2.7, wouldn't touch Spurs with a barge pile on that, only because I don't know what's happening with De Zerbi. But I do think there's a likelihood that he goes clever and is able to navigate a way to win this game, which I'll get to. Well, I'll do it now. Sunderland by exactly 1 is 4.33. Spurs by exactly 1 is 4.33. I think this will be quite tight. And I think that 1 goal will get it won. And if Sunderland get it, I'm struggling to see how Tottenham would break them down. Brian Brobby has scored lots of goals this season, certainly late. Any time for him is double your money. But I do think both teams will score 1-6-7. Wouldn't be surprised to see a 1-1 draw here. 2-1 either way. I'd go home team.
Tricky, this one. Let's see what the smart bet is telling us for this game. Because we have, again, a double chance, which is Sunderland or draw. Good odds indeed if you go for double chance. Either way, Sunderland or draw, or Tottenham or draw. Tricky one. The service trying to rescue Tottenham. And the last game, best one probably this weekend, is Chelsea Man City. Also, very likely the FA Cup final. But we will find out in some weeks. Chelsea, with everyone talking, I guess, about the Enzo Fernandez ban, 2 games ban, so he won't be available for this game. He prefers to live in Madrid than in London, what to say. But Ross Senior, I guess, is following orders. Chelsea's form has been really bad in the Premier League, 3 defeats in the last 4 games, Everton or Newcastle. Not only the results, but the way of playing, and we can include also the tie with PSG, especially the second leg, and kind of the opposite for Man City smashed Liverpool in the FA Cup. Also, they were way better than Arsenal in the Carabao Cup, but in the Premier League, Tom, they gave away points against West Ham and Nottingham Forest, and of course, they need to win to put pressure on Arsenal. Big game. This one, by the way, the head-to-head recently, especially is really favorable for Man City. Last Chelsea win in the Premier League was in 2021, long time ago.
And there's another one coming here for Chelsea, I'm afraid. It's come off the rails, hasn't it, this season for Chelsea? I think that losing Enzo Maresca was a mistake, and another mistake to add to the many mistakes from the owners who don't seem to understand the football club they've bought. They haven't bought a project club. If they'd have bought West Ham or Tottenham or another club in London, Crystal Palace, I think they could have done this hedge fund football model. Chelsea aren't like that, never been like that. This whole Chelsea ethos since Abramovich came in 20, 30 years ago is win at all costs, and we don't care how we do it. And that is not what Liam Rosenior is. That's not what Enzo Maresca was. And it's a shame that they lost Enzo Maresca, because Liam Rosenior, look, he isn't going to be there long. He is a bored stooge. And I think even to your point from earlier about the way Enzo Fernandez has been treated recently, Liam Rosenior has not banned Enzo Fernandez for 2 games. Come on now. There's absolutely no way that's happened. I mean, the only element on that, maybe we'll talk about it another time, is that do Real Madrid even want him? Could they afford him? And if not, what even is this? So it's all very strange. But look, I think that the Chelsea Achilles heel, I've discussed at length this season, is they have not invested in their defence. Tosin, Fofana, Achampong, Chalobah, yeah, they're all fine. None of them top class. The goalkeepers aren't top class. The fullbacks bar Reece James, who's injured again, not top class. We haven't seen enough of Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo in central midfield this season. That's when they've been at their best, and without them, they have struggled. And up front, João Pedro's had a really impressive campaign with 14 Premier League goals. But Cole Palmer has flattered to deceive this season. Pedro Neto has not quite stepped up. I mean, just a lot of underwhelming players that have been inconsistent for a manager they can't possibly respect. And that's led them to the position they are in. I mean, they should be cruising into Champions League qualification. Instead, they find themselves below Liverpool. So have to win a game like this. But against the Man City side, who have they hit form? I don't think that's a fair assessment, but I do think there's a clear team there now. I'm not sure it's the best team that Guardiola could put together. I think there's still lots of flaws in it, but I think there's a lot of players that are hitting some form at the right time. Erling Haaland scoring goals once again, including that FA Cup hat-trick last week. Ryan Cherki coming back into the team, having been inexplicably dropped for like a couple of months. Maybe there's something we don't know, but that was weird. Semenyo's come in and looked like City's best player every single game he's played. Gay has made Kusanov better in the same way he made Chris Richards better at Crystal Palace. So look, lots of positives for City at the moment. They're in good form. They're a better team. They're chasing down Arsenal. They'll be desperate to win this and then beat Arsenal next week, a couple of days on from Sporting Lisbon. So a lot more on the line for City. And so you have to look at the City win. The odds for a City win at 2.23. I haven't seen City above 2 for a long time in a game like this. So I'm really surprised at that. So snap your hand off for that. And I'd lump on a City win on those odds. I do think there's goals in this for both teams. City have kept 1 clean sheet in the last 5, and Chelsea have kept 1, and that was the game against Port Vale. So both teams leaky defensively. Man City 2-1, 3-1, or 4-1 together comes in at a really healthy 5. 2-1 to City on its own is 8.5. Lump on that big time. Haaland anytime goal scorer is, well, those odds are wrong. I've sent you the wrong odds there. It should be 2.33. Forgive me. That's far too much. If it was 4.33, I put £1 million on it. 2.33. That was my fault. Sorry. And both score no draw. I like here as well at 2.33.
All right. Well, perhaps now that Frank Lampard is going back to the Premier League, Chelsea need again Frank Lampard. Who knows? They are so bad at home this season. They are 12th in the standings. This is pitiful. 5 draws, 4 defeats, and only 6 wins playing at Stamford Bridge. So City to win, True Light or Kakbare also, City to win is really good. The odds, let's see if Man City can push until the end. And for Monday, once again, Man United playing on Monday. Looks like ages also since we saw Man United for the last time. They are going to qualify for the Champions League, and this is thanks to Michael Carrick. Now they are 7 points away from Chelsea at the moment, even if they drew with Bournemouth in the last game. Leeds, Tom, drawing every single game. Also in the FA Cup, they are in the semi-finals, but also the last 2. In the Premier League, winless in 6 and only 4 points away from West Ham.
Yeah, I sort of felt for a long time that it's going to be West Ham or Leeds. I just think West Ham, they need to win games, obviously, but they face each other on the final day of the season. So the job is, with the goal difference swing, to be 2 points behind Leeds going into the final day. That, for me, has been the plan for West Ham for a long, long time. Leeds have had the opportunities to pull away in recent games and have failed to do so. Palace and Brentford and Sunderland as well, where they lost, they're not winning the easy games, Leeds. They don't know how to win games. And even in the FA Cup at the weekend just gone, they're 2-0 up against West Ham in the 90th minute and still don't win that game. And that's a psychological problem. That's an organizational problem. And I think that there's not a great deal of kind of risk reward in the way that Leeds play. I think that might cost them in the end. Look, I still think West Ham will go down from the 4 that are in it, but if Leeds do go down, that'll be the reason. 11 goals conceded in the 90th minute onwards in the Premier League this season. They do crumble at the last. So that'll be the issue here. Leeds will play for a draw. They may well score the opening goal. They do the same thing every single week. Incredibly risk averse. And they may well nick a win, nick a late goal. But as the game goes on, you'd favour the opposition. And in terms of Man United, look, drew against Bournemouth last time out in a really, really fun game. A freedom about them under Michael Carrick, who he just showed you how stupid what Amorim was doing. And I don't know if Michael Carrick is the right person to be the Man United manager moving forward, but He's put the square pegs in square holes. Bruno Fernandes looks incredibly happy right now playing football in this team. He's getting performances out of Mbeumo and Šeško and Cunha, which had been inconsistent across the campaign. So I think Man United at home against a relegation-threatened team will play a pretty standard, aggressive game, and I think they'll win it at 1.64. I think that's pretty decent. I think they'll win quite comfortably. 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 comes in at 3.25. I know last clean sheet was the win over Everton. Usually they concede at least one. So look at the 2-1, 3-1, 4-1 market as well. That comes in at over 3 as well. Bruno Fernandes, sensational player. Anytime goal for him at 2.75. Add that to goal and assist. It comes in slightly lower, but well worth your time. He's going to create more big chances than any other player in the Premier League this season. And just one final bit. It's a Leeds game, a bit like a Bournemouth game. 12 draws this season. Don't discount the draw at 4.
All right, Man United win for Cayondo, and both teams to score. Šeško, anytime goal scorer, Okakbare is telling us. This is it. Premier League is back finally. In the final days of this season. Remember, of course, we have available our tipster competitions for you. The Premier League one is still going on with the chance to win some money, and of course the monthly one as well. There you go, the Premier League one with a Spanish guy on top, and the monthly one in April. And also check out Rivals and create your own tipster league. Okay, Tom, which one is your safe bet this week?
Oh, tricky this week, but I have gone for the Monday night football. Man United to beat Leeds. Safe bet for the week for me at 1.64.
And the ACA?
Treble this week. Really good odds, actually, considering the teams involved. Arsenal to beat Bournemouth, which is tricky, as discussed. Man City win at Chelsea, who I think are quite poor. And United win against Leeds. A really, really healthy 4.56.
All right. Well, guys, thank you. Thank you, Tom. See you next week. Bye-bye.